All right, guys, today we're gonna bomb through a news drop. Bunch of stuff just happened. A lot of it, food news. That means it could be in your refrigerator, freezer, or your cabinet. Walmart issuing a risk to death warning. We've also got the largest food company cutting 16,000 jobs. I'm sure you can guess why. You guys eat ice cream out there? Serious? Life-threatening mistake? And how about this? Every year, more than 1 million tons of sewage, sludge, or biosolids are applied to US farmlands. And how does that correlate with all these forever chemicals? Also gonna tell you about a big SNAP. If you guys have SNAP food assistance, that might be completely disappearing November. Also gonna get you guys some really interesting information about Alzheimer's and cholesterol. And I know a lot of you guys may or may have not taken the shots. Some of you a little bit more worried now than before. Well, we've got a tip from Barbara Neal that I'll share with you that has to do with a couple things that you could take to minimize some of those proteins that are in there. Important information regarding food news happening now, coming right up. Hey guys, my name is Cohen here at Riverside Homestead, and if you're brand new here, welcome. And if you guys are into prepping tips, emergency preparedness, and most important, news and awareness that affects you, be sure to start this video off with a like, hit that notification bell so you guys can stay up to date, and let's begin. All right guys, welcome back. Thanks for starting this off with a like. Really helps it get to more folks. Some big headlines in food news. Walmart product recalled nationwide as risk of death warning issued. Check it out.
Walmart is recalling packages of frozen raw shrimp sold in 13 states because health officials said they could contain potential radioactive contamination. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration asked Walmart to recall 3 lots of great value frozen shrimp after officials found cesium-137, a radioactive isotope, in shipping containers and a sample of frozen shrimp. The shipping containers and products were denied entry into the U.S. However, the FDA then learned that Walmart had received potentially contaminated products imported after it was first detected. It's still not clear how the shipping containers or the shrimp could have become contaminated, and the FDA is still investigating. Walmart immediately recalled all the products sold in the stores and said that consumers should throw them away or return them to stores for a full refund.
Here's the problem. A lot of people did buy it. It was sold at Walmart. All over the world, Walmarts are busy, and frozen shrimp tends to go into the freezer, which gets eaten later. They are still stirring a lot of fuss about radioactive shrimp, which means it's probably not super good for you. And it's still popping up on breaking news, meaning you might want to check your freezer. Another thing revolving around food, people losing their jobs, and you're not gonna like why. Check out this headline. World's largest food company is cutting 16,000 jobs due partly to automation. You know what that means. 1, they say robots are going to take over our jobs. 2, you don't got any live souls in there to see if anything's going wrong, because everything will be controlled by AI, robots. And who might be this big evil company? Nestle. You got it. Will cut around 16,000 jobs worldwide over the next 2 years as it works to slash costs, including through automation, the world's largest food company said Thursday. When? Well, they said most of the layoffs, about 12,000 of them, will affect white-collar professionals as Nestle targets operational efficiency, including by automating processes and using shared services. The company behind such brands like Kit Kat and Nesquik said in a statement. They're saying that another 4,000 roles to manufacturing, supply chain, as part as measures improve productivity. The overall job cuts will amount to almost a 6% of Nestle's workforce. We've been warning you that AI automation is going to take over a lot of people's jobs. And you know who's going to start the parade on that? Some of these huge big box owned companies. Another one just popping up this last week. Publix recalls ice cream after a possibly serious or life-threatening mistake. Right there you guys can see I've seen this in the stores, so I know you guys see it and some of you buy it. So if you've got that sitting in your freezer, know that people who have an allergy or severe sensitivity to eggs may run the risk of serious or life-threatening allergic reactions. They're already facing lawsuits from harm that's been done by this product. So steer clear if that one affects you. Now, regarding spices, this one continues to resurface in the breaking news thread, stop using these common cooking spices the FDA warns as the recall expands. And guys, it's the cinnamon. They're saying that there's tons of lead, but I'm gonna talk to you about something else, which just makes you really wonder, like, is there really a problem with cinnamon and some of these other herbs and spices that they want you to stop using? Here's the FDA's list, in case you guys wanna be precautious. Roshni, right there, Dura, White Wife, all the way down. Very common brands. The FDA recommend that these brands voluntarily recall their products that have not been taken out of reach. They're saying that it has elevated lead in it. And here's another one. I'll throw this one in there just because it popped up and I'm like, whoa. Ben's Original Ready Rice. Like, this is a Popular Rice brand. Popular Rice brand issued a recall because people might be eating stones. Whole grain brown style of Ben's Ready Rice microwavable parboiled rice. They're saying Popular Rice brand issues a recall after stones are found in the product. And it's not just the brown. It says the recall includes a limited number of Ben's Original Grain White and Whole Grain Brown and Long Grain and Wild Ready Rice products. All of them. Apparently all of them got stones. What'd they do? Drag the boxes through a gravel field. Right here you guys can see actually the list with the codes in case you guys have any of this. Unless you want to be eating stones, you might want to check on that. Now I've only got a couple things left, including a sludge of forever chemicals spread on the US farmlands that threaten the food supply. I also want to tell you about SNAP benefits that they're saying is not going to be available starting November. And then I want to give you a tip from Barbara O'Neill regarding the spiker proteins and getting those out of your system using all natural stuff. And then I'm also going to tell you something really interesting about Alzheimer's, statins, and cholesterol.
Invisible enemy is being welcomed onto American farms.
This is a forever chemical. It's not leaving.
Fertilizer that can be teeming with toxic PFAS is being spread across tens of millions of acres, absorbed by crops, eaten by livestock, and showing up in the produce, milk, and meat Americans consume.
All a farmer wants to do is grow a good, healthy crop, do right by the land, feed the public in a responsible manner. And when something is injected into his world like this, it's going to devastate him.
Rob Hinton is a fourth-generation Virginia farmer, trying to alert others to a crisis already playing out in places like Michigan and Maine, where farms utilizing PFAS-laden sludge have been shut down when the animals and soil turned toxic.
This is about as real as it gets, guys.
Maine farmer Fred Stone was forced to close his dairy farm and euthanize 80% of his herd when milk from his cows had levels of PFAS 350 times higher than the current limit for drinking water. Stone is now sick, battling extremely high levels of PFAS in his blood.
The health issues that the four of us have are pretty severe. We literally poisoned our son and my daughter.
The chemicals are tied to cancer, reproductive issues, and developmental effects in children, even decreased response to vaccines. Enough evidence for Rob Hinton to say no to sludge.
He passed on using it.
We passed on using it. I gave it a hard look twice, and we walked away from it.
Away from a product used on about 1/5 of all U.S. farmland. Here's how it works. Wastewater treatment facilities pay companies to haul tons of human excrement, or biosolids. Those companies have to unload the waste, often by giving it to farmers for free to spread on their land.
That's hundreds of millions of people in the U.S. eating food from farms that use biosolids. So the exposure is incredibly high.
Which is why EPA action is so important, says Kyla Bennett, Director of Science Policy at Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility. For the first time ever, this year, the EPA identified risks from sludge containing PFAS being spread on farms. The agency found that food and milk produced on those farms could be unsafe for human health. Elevated cancer risk was one of the agency's markers for safety.
We can give you cancer and kill you, but there's going to be a lag time. And the more that you eat, the more you're exposed to.
Only a handful of states are testing for PFAS in biosolids, and what they're finding are levels so alarming they're considering statewide bans. Investigations in Michigan showed levels of PFAS 2,000 times higher than the EPA's safety limit. In Colorado, 95% of samples exceeded that limit. And recently, a Texas county declared a state of emergency over PFAS contamination from sludge. But in the widespread absence of regulation, farmers are on their own.
Who's left to fix the problem?
No one. I don't know what I can do about it. This interview is about all I can do about it. I'm not saying shut this whole thing down. Let's say do your due diligence, do your job, be a government, regulate this stuff, educate the people who are affected, and let's figure it out.
And that's coming from ABC6 Fox News. This guy is a farmer. He knows farming. He's got to pay attention to farming, which brings us the good stuff typically in a grocery store. He shouldn't be having to worry about doing the government and the EPA's job. Look, I'm a big fan of supporting local, supporting farmers. So if I ever have good links, I'll put them in the description. But we got to support companies that have our best interest in mind. Or before long, we're going to be eating bioengineered everything, synthetic ingredient alternatives for the stuff that we once thought was good, and fake meat and everything else, probably made by AI and robots. Vote with your dollars, folks. Vote with your dollars. Now I want to show you Barbara O'Neill. She tends to throw out a lot of great stuff from time to time. She has an opinion on some natural stuff that could help minimize some of the concerns that came with the poke. This may be for some of you, it may not, but I'll play that and you guys let me know in the comments. And then I'm going to show you something also really interesting about maybe we don't know the truth about Alzheimer's. Maybe we don't know the truth about cholesterol. Some other interesting things that I caught my eye and gives you a little bit of a head scratch.
I took the COVID shot. How do I get rid of the spike protein that is now in my body? I know that many people were blackmailed into taking the shot. But there are 3 things that will inhibit the spike protein producing the nanoparticles. One is zinc, the other is dandelion. And the dandelion can be the flower, the leaf, the root, or dandelion tea or coffee. And you don't have to take all of these.
Now, isn't it interesting that in America, it is like our #1 goal to kill dandelions in our lawn, right? Not too many people know that you can eat them, and not too many people know about all the health advantages. Something to look into if you guys aren't aware of that.
Just one of them's enough. And white pine needle tea. But also, Dr. Peter McCulloch has a protocol, and I think that's fairly easy to access. So if someone has had the shot, they should be having one of these every day to inhibit the spike protein causing the nanoparticles. Nano is barely measurable. The problem with the nanoparticles is they're so small, but once you get 50 together, you start to get little clots.
Anyway, I know some of you appreciate that type of information, that type of opinion, and it also sometimes gives you a trail to go down to do a little bit more research. Barbara O'Neill, often seen as a treasure. Other things I've heard aside from the zinc and the pine needle tea and the dandelion is high concentrations of vitamin C. Now, for those of you that stick around and like to get the good stuff at the end, this is another, just like I said, we'll call it an opinion. Do your own research, do your own validation. There's a lot of information that gets put out that I've been getting bits and pieces for some time now, and it's definitely worth consideration and factoring in this thought process.
They told you that Alzheimer's is a mystery. They told you there's no cure. They told you that it's just bad luck and age. But what if I told you that the truth about Alzheimer's is a lot darker than you think? Here's the history that they buried. Alzheimer's was almost non-existent before the 20th century. No epidemics, no nursery homes packed with memory loss patients. So why is it now the 6th leading cause of death in the US? Let's follow the trail. Who discovered Alzheimer's? A man by the name Alois Alzheimer in 1906. But he didn't name the disease. Emil Kraepelin did. A man that was working with Big Pharma to classify mental disorders. And Pharma started searching for treatments the exact same year that the disease was named. Coincidence? In the 1990s, they told you that Alzheimer's was from plaques and tangles in the brain. And Big Pharma made drugs to target the plaques. Billions spent, decades wasted. And not a single drug worked because the plaques weren't the issue. Then in 2022, scientists dropped the bomb. The original Alzheimer's research was faked. A key study that launched decades of pharma drugs, fabricated images. You heard that right. An entire field of medicine built on lies. And here's what they don't want you to know. Alzheimer's isn't a brain disease. It is a metabolic disease. Some call it type 3 diabetes. Why do they call it that? Because Alzheimer's brains can't use glucose. And modern agriculture played a big part. But what's causing it? Sugar overload, processed and fake foods, a sedentary life, inflammation, statins. Yes, the cholesterol drugs, chemicals, and toxins. Wait, cholesterol? Correct. Your brain is made of fat and cholesterol. Didn't know that? And statins lower cholesterol, which means your brain gets starved. Makes sense? Low cholesterol means memory loss, confusion, and brain fog. The same symptoms they call Alzheimer's. And people that fast regularly, low Alzheimer's risk. People that move daily, low Alzheimer's risk. People that eat nutrient-dense natural foods, low Alzheimer's risk. But that's never mentioned. Why? Because fasting and walking cannot be patented. The Alzheimer's industry is worth $300 billion. Drugs that don't work, nursery homes that sedate, doctors who never ask about diet, lifestyle, or insulin. It's not about curing you, it's about billing you for life.
Comment Alzheimer's down below and I'll keep digging in on this one. Again, if you guys found value, please share this video out. If you haven't already switched to safer alternatives, check out the link in the description and the pinned comment, and make sure you guys are still subscribed because I got a lot more coming down the pipe. Keep prepping, keep learning, keep doing. We'll see you on the next one.